Hello and welcome back to Mirror's Signal podcast, your weekly podcast sponsored by Knowledgeably Instructor Training, award-winning CPD providers. Stay tuned to the episode for your discount code from them. Today's episode was the second interactive session with the MSP community members. Last week, we spoke about learner driver skills. This week, we're talking about driving instructor skills. Now, we cover a lot of topics through this episode, but by no means cover all of the skills that are needed as a driving instructor. But some of the topics are kind of some of the standout ones that we need as a driving instructor, and some of the things that maybe get overlooked in training and when you start working as an ADI or PDI. So lots of information, some great points brought up by some of the guests, and a really enjoyable session. So I hope you guys that are listening or watching enjoy the episode. And if you'd like to join in on the next couple of these, then make sure you sign up either on Spotify, Patreon, or on YouTube as a member so you can come along. We will be going back to normal from January, so you will get access to the episodes as a member, but you will still get the monthly interactive session where we get to discuss all things driving instructor related, along with some things not driving instructor related. So sign up, come along, let us know what you think of it. But for now, we will get on with the episode. I hope you all enjoy. So, driving instructor skills. We're going to follow on from last week's episode with most of you guys, actually. We've got some new faces this evening. But last week was learner driver skills, plus many other topics that were covered. This week, I wanted to chat to you guys about driving instructor skills, either what you think are some of the skills that are needed, or if anyone's got any questions as to how you can maybe develop those skills, because I know we've got a couple of PDIs, we've got ADIs, we've got trainers, a great mix of people to be talking about this. So I'm going to throw it out to all of you. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot this evening. I'm going to let you talk if you want to talk, or stay quiet and listen if that's what you want to do. But driving instructor skills, what are some of the skills you guys think we need as a driving instructor? Go.
I think you need to be able to drive very well.
Interesting. So driving skills, driving very well. What does that mean? Because you must have passed a part 2 to get to part 3.
Yeah, but I think that if you can't drive particularly well, then I think you're going to be really struggling to teach people how to drive. If you're just not, not everyone's a natural driver, are they? I don't think, whether you're auto, whether you're manual, but attitude as well to driving. So, it's I think it's fairly blended, that if you've got a good attitude and you respect the road, have a respect for your car, yourself, other people, then I think and a passion for being out on the road. But I think quite often we're seeing, well, I certainly see people, how much money can you earn? How much money will I earn as a driving instructor? I'm thinking about being a driving instructor. How much money can you earn? And it's all about the money. And that it's not about your skills as a driver, or I don't know. Maybe I'm off on a tangent. No, I don't think it's really that is.
Making some really valid points there, because I do believe there's quite a lot, and I've seen driving instructors out there without a client in the car who don't really execute a good driving skill out there. Do you know what I mean? And I think you've got to have a passion for it. You've got to have a passion for wanting pretty much everybody to behave themselves on the road, to drive how we're meant to drive, being very conscious of your own drive all the time. Because I am, You know what I mean? Some people say, oh, I don't drive like that when I'm on my own, but I can honestly say that, yeah, I do. I watch everything that I do. I'm very conscious of where what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And it's not just because I'm a driving instructor. It's because that's what works. That's what keeps me safe and other people around me. And I think if you haven't got that skill, anybody can go out there and pass a driving test, a part two. It's not that hard, is it? So I don't think the part two is that hard as a driving test, but anybody can go out there and do that if they're a relatively good driver. But whether or not they're going to execute that all the time or just to pass a test. Do you know what I mean? So I see quite a few driving instructors. I think, what the bloody hell are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, why are you driving like that? So I think it's important that we've got a passion for driving in the first place. I don't think you could do it unless you did, to be fair. I don't think you're in the right space to do that unless you can say that you really, really do give a shit about your driving. You know what I mean? And how you come across on the roads. So I think every point you made there is very valid. It's not a tangent. It's really valid. I've always enjoyed driving, and I've been driving since when did I pass 1984, and I can never say that I don't enjoy driving. You know what I mean? I've always enjoyed it, even though it's been a necessity. It's been enjoyed on most levels. So, yeah.
See, passing a part two and teaching people to drive is different, isn't it?
A
lot of people, they come through these trainers and they don't interlink it. So they don't understand what they're actually doing with the driving because you're doing it subconsciously. And I know you'll train people, Carl. If you ask somebody how to do a certain thing, they just don't understand how they do it because they just naturally do it without even thinking about it. Big one, handbrake. Amount of PDIs I've spoke to that says that the pupils struggle to get handbrake off. And they don't realise you have to lift it slightly, then put button in. They just say, well, just push button in and put it down. But you don't. You lift it slightly first to take tension. And I think if people don't understand that they need to think about what they're doing, then it becomes hard for them to teach as well.
Well, I think that's, for me, like, any training about where say a PDI comes along and, training towards part two, I think it's getting them to actually change their focus to becoming aware of their actions at all times and why they're doing it. Because when you get to be a seasoned, skilled driver, you do things very automatically, almost muscle memory. Even though each time you leave the house or get in the car, even the same journey, something's different, obviously, but we do things very subconsciously, don't we? Unless, but that's completely changed the way that I do it. I'm always aware of what I'm doing, and that's not leaving me now. It's stayed with me since then. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like changing gear. Why am I doing it? Well, justifying every move that I make. That's what I look at, and that's how I teach my learners. Is if you're thinking you're going to do something, justify it and run it through your head first. What is it you're doing it for? Why are you doing it? And it changes the whole drive, I think. That's what I've come to the conclusion that you've got, as an instructor, I think it's important for us to be aware of all those actions and bring it back to focus rather than it being the unconscious competence. So I think that's my quest through my learners, is to get them to do that, but keep it. Don't let it go. Because that's when the standards start to drop, isn't it? And that's why we see so many bloody idiots on the road. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole just yet, but I'm sure it'll come up eventually.
I've got a feeling all of these are going to end at that point, somehow, somewhere. Mel's here, and Mel, you're on one about those other drivers that are not conscious competence. They're unconscious incompetent.
Unconscious incompetence, yeah.
It's crazy. So that was an unexpected skill, but I think it's hugely important, and important to come in at this stage as well. If anyone's watching this as a PDI and they think they're going to get a list of skills that they can go away and work on and magically get through a part three, That's probably not going to happen this evening. So tune out now if that's what you want. But that basic level of driving skill and passion for driving and road safety is massive. And as Andy's mentioned, I think it's overlooked for so many people because it is just go and pass a part two. And I'm of the opinion that the part two isn't good enough for what we need to do. You can pass it at that unconscious competence stage, and there can be a lot of faults with your driving that aren't marked down, but you're going to cause problems if that's how you're teaching your learners. So a huge one that needs a lot of time, and when you get to that level, maintaining it or taking it further, massively important.
Well,
So
that talks about
there's
the link between the three parts, isn't it? You know what I mean? There's a reason why there's a part one, part two, and part three. They're all very much linked. But people, you know, I wasn't taught that when I first started. You know, and I probably didn't enter this business with knowing full well what was going to happen. I didn't. That's why I called it a TARDIS job. It just seems like a job. And then you open the doors to that industry and you're met with all this. What the hell is all this about? You know what I mean? It's so complex. It is so complex. But yeah, you're right. I think the more that PDIs are aware of linking the three is the key to it.
I've always thought that sorry, Penny, I just talked over you then. I always thought that the 1, 2, 3, I always thought that part 3 should be taught first. I've always thought that, like back to front, should be sort of working with all of them, really. Maybe part 2 and part 3 together, and then do your theory rather than 1, 2, and 3. Doesn't flow for me, 1, 2, 3. It's more like 3 and 2 together. Link the driving with the teaching. Go and do a theory, and then that's what I've always thought about training myself.
So I think the driving skills are essential. Got to be, because that's what we're teaching. We need to understand how we use those skills for them to go correctly. We also need to have the knowledge and the understanding of the skills and the reasons we do things. So not just that, like we're driving down the road, we're slowing down. We need to know why we're doing it. What is the reason we're doing it? So are we looking ahead and thinking about what's going on? So when you're as an instructor, you've got to be well in front of your pupils, because if you're just doing things when you would normally do them, when's your pupil going to have time to do it? So we've got to be a lot further ahead, thinking a lot further ahead than we would do as a standard driver, which I think a lot of people don't realise how far ahead you need to start thinking about things, so that your learner has the time to digest what you're saying, process that information, start thinking about what they're going to do with that information, and then actually doing it. So it's quite a long period before they're actually doing something. So even if we're telling them what to do, they've got to have that time to do it.
Yeah, it's a very important skill, that, when it comes to our job, because it's all about the timing, isn't it? Processing information, and we might have done this for years, but maybe not as far ahead. When you become an instructor, you've just got to be one step further ahead to allow a time for that processing for somebody who's actually learning. It's just, I think there's a lot of skills involved. If you're going to talk about every skill that a driving instructor needs, we're going to be a lot longer than 11 o'clock tonight.
We've got about an hour, but an overview of some, because you're right, there are so many skills, but I think there are going to be some that stand out more than others, and then a few skills fall out of one. When you look at your driving ability, for example, if you don't have your driving ability, then your prompts are going to be off because the timing's going to be wrong. If you don't have the driving ability, you're questioning what are you going to be questioning on? If you don't know what your learner should be doing because you don't know what you would be doing, what are we questioning on? So I think there's a lot of things that will fall out from each skill, which again is all linked massively. But it does seem from a lot of the questions on social media that the skills that are needed to be a driving instructor are missed. People look for what appears to be, in my opinion, a quick solution. So they may be struggling with questioning, what prompts should I be using for roundabouts? What should I be doing for this? What questions can I ask at a junction? And you can give someone as many questions as you want, but if the skills are missing, i.e. they don't know what they would be doing coming up to a junction, how do you know what you're looking for from your pupil? If you don't know when you would be doing something coming up to a junction, you're not going to be able to prompt the pupil in time. So there's a hell of a lot that falls out. If you're missing one skill, driving skills, then everything else is going to start to crumble. So I think maybe looking for some of the more common or overarching skills would be a good way to go this evening, because you're absolutely right, Carl. The theme amongst most of the episodes on the podcast have been that 40 hours isn't enough to become a driving instructor. And I'm sure we can all agree here that we put a lot more than 40 hours into it. And if people are looking to do the minimum hours, 40 hours, and come away being able to go and pass a part 3, I think most people are going to be surprised. It does take time. You need to understand the skills. You need to know how to develop them. But you need to know what those skills are. The driving skills, you guys have covered it. Maybe there's a future episode in it with you all. But what else comes into it? So we've had driving skills. What other things would people benefit from?
I think, like, from my point of view, is a genuine curiosity and a willingness to learn just as much as we expect the pupil to learn, because we learn so much from each individual. And I found that I just didn't realize that until the amount of different personalities that get in your car, and each one of them has an entirely different perception of everything that's around you. And I think if we can open ourselves up to going, well, I'm the learner here as well. Do you know what I mean? And being genuinely curious as to their world. My background was autism, and I quickly found out that to get them to sort of understand and help themselves into your world was to step into theirs first. Yeah. And then gradually guide them to see it from your point of view. Obviously with driving skills, it's every single person is that different that you couldn't possibly structure a lesson around textbook questions. That was my problem with all the questions. Like people say, what kind of questions can I ask? For me, the conversation is a conversation built on an experience, talk about the experience in an open conversation with that pupil. And that's where that happens. It's not about what's written in a book. Do you know what I mean? But I found quite a bit of a problem with structured questions and structured lessons. It just never worked for me. And as soon as I just stepped out of it and went, you know what? I'm just going to ditch all this bullshit and let's just have a proper conversation and see where it goes. Then it worked. I was like, there it is. Do you know what I mean? It took me bloody ages to find it, and there it was. I just thought, this is great because it's now working.
So
you know what I mean?
Carl,
Open.
would you say that's a skill of adapting the learning style to suit the pupil?
Absolutely. But you've got to find it. I think if you've got to. Now that'll only come if you really listen, because humans are very clever at lining the next question up, aren't they? Even though they're not really listening to what's coming next. So sometimes, and I always say to my clients, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to promise me that you're not going to answer in what you think I want to hear. Yeah? Tell me what it really is. Tell me what, tell me your thoughts on this now. Because that's where the real, the listening comes in. You've got to sit and you've got to properly listen and wait. Never line that next question up until they finish actually talking. Because if you do, you're not listening. You're not listening. You're not taking into account. How could you possibly know what the next question is going to be unless you hear that person out properly? You couldn't possibly know. It'd be your agenda and not theirs. So, yes, every time. And no matter how long you've got that client, every lesson's going to be different. You know what I mean? You've got to keep on listening to them. No matter how much you think you know them, there's always a difference. There's always something. Yeah.
Do you have a problem listening?
I used to do.
Because you like to talk.
I do like to talk. I do. Now that was something that I had to really work on. I gabber a lot. Josh knows that. I go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. But when I get in the car, I don't. I sit and I watch and we have a conversation about what I've just witnessed, and that's it. Do you know what I mean?
Another skill in itself, isn't it? Watching the learner.
It is if you've got a gob like mine, which goes 200 miles an hour, to be able to, come back from that and go, do you know what? Just try it this way and see what happens. And it's just so interesting. It makes your job easier. You don't go home as knackered neither because your jaw's not going like this.
But going back to what you said, Carl, about not lining questions up. When I did my training, I was taught by my trainer to line next question up and not listen.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean? It's something that's missing in training.
Yeah,
well,
why would
that
they tell you
listening
to do that?
No, that's what they did. What went well, what didn't go so well, and what we're going to do next time. That's what they tell you to do. They don't say, ask question what went well, listen to what they say, and then make a question. Next question is, what didn't go so well? That's your next question. And that's what they teach you.
See, whatever answer I get, it's always, okay, just tell me what you're basing that on. What's made you come to that decision? Because I need to understand it a bit deeper. And I think when you do that, you just realise that they're looking at it and you can see they're thinking, and then they're like, why didn't I think of it that way myself? And you can see them going deeper themselves. You know what I mean? I love all that. Leave it all to them. It's not about us. It's about them, isn't it?
Yeah, they're the ones that are doing the learning, not us.
Yeah, well, I think we'd learn from it ourselves. You know what I mean? But I think the more we talk in that environment, the less gets done.
Unless they learn.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time when you dig deeper, they've got the answer themselves anyway.
Yeah, because I'll guarantee it. Very rarely. I mean, the don't knows are great, aren't they? I love the don't knows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If somebody says they don't know, then I'll almost guarantee within 2 minutes they will know, and it didn't come from me. And I love that. Them little light bulb moments, I just love them. I live for them. It's just fantastic watching people's heads pop. Oh, there it is. I love it. It's just brilliant. It's the best job in the world as far as I'm concerned, because where else can you do all that? I just think it's real interaction. It's not our agenda, So that's my opinion anyway. So listening is definitely probably one of the most important skills, real listening.
Well, I'm going to use my listening skills and bring it back to something that Penny slipped in. And then we carried on with the listening and conversation. Yeah. No, that was Sean disappearing and then changing his background.
He's been to the moon and back.
Yeah, I was distracted for a minute, but we're back in the room now. Don't know whether Sean is, but that's all right.
No, I'm actually on holiday now. Total different area.
There we go. So I am going to bring it back to Penny though, because you mentioned the skill of watching the pupil.
Yes.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
So people think they watch, but they don't. They tend to watch the road, have a quick look at their learner, watch the road, have a quick look at the learner, watch the road. They might check the mirror, have a quick look at the learner, watch the road. Should be watch the learner, have a quick look at the road, watch the learner, what's behind you. So you know what's going on around you, but you're watching your learner to see if they know what's going on around them. Are they using their mirrors? Because if you're not looking at them, how do you know that they've not used their mirrors? Making sure that when you give those directions that you're looking at them. So before you give that direction, you've got to know what's going on around. You've got to check what's going on behind you, know what's going on at the sides of you, and what's going to be happening ahead of you.
Is that the long one?
Then give them that instruction while you are looking at them. Then once you've given them that instruction, stay looking at them until they've done something. If it starts getting uncomfortable, say something to them. Then look away, so you know they've done something. But I see it, and I think Stephen will say it's probably one of the hardest things he had to learn, is that taking eyes off the road. You're so used to watching the road. When anyone else drives, normally you want to watch the road as well, make sure they're not missing anything.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah.
That it's that getting your eyes off the road, watching the learner. What are they doing? Are they doing what you think they should be doing at the time you think they should be doing it? I'll shut up now.
It's right though, isn't it? You know what I mean? You know, there's a lot of screen watchers, isn't there? And I think it can be quite comical sometimes, you know, and they think they might have got away with something. And I say, how did that corner go? You know, how did that turn go? Oh, I thought it went really well. Okay, how was your steering? No, it's fantastic. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Did you check your mirror? How did you see that? How can you see what I'm doing? I'm like, it's my bloody job. I'm meant to watch it. That's why you pay me loads of money. So yeah, I think it's just what.
I've got eyes at the back of my head.
One of my clients said I had eyes like a shithouse rat.
When you ask them if they've looked at the mirror and they say, yeah, and you know full well they haven't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just tell them, you're only fooling yourself. You're not fooling anybody else.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, it's a very interesting job, isn't it? It's far from boring, isn't it? Because we've got so many skills and qualities that we need to upkeep. You could never get bored, could you?
No.
No.
And the further you get into something, the further that you can take it as well, which is quite interesting. There's an endless amount of learning that we can do, whether it's through psychology or mindfulness or body language or communication skills or your own driving, plus many more things that I've probably not mentioned. But it is endless. Or you can do the bare minimum and you can qualify and you can deliver basic lessons, working as many hours as you want, as long as you want. And it's on the individual, isn't it? It's on you as the individual to take it further, because the majority of the industry is self-employed. And usually after a couple of years, they're not even part of a brand or a school. It's off you go on your own, set up Josh's driving school, no one keeping a check on you, no one doing anything. There's still a bit of a shortage of driving instructors. There's no shortage of inquiries, I think, for most people. So it's on the individual to go and pursue these skills, whether it's at the PDI stage or taking them further as an ADI. So we've had that watching the learner, massively important. And another one that I think is overlooked when we judge how many PDIs people are helping that have struggled with the first part through or whatever, that seems to be something that comes up, is that lack of knowledge and skill of driving, but also lacking the ability to watch the pupil. And as Penny and Stephen have just mentioned, it's one of the hardest ones to learn, because it is completely retraining our actions when we're in a car, and it's not easy. What other skills have we got, or what would people like to add into what we've already had?
Yeah,
the patience and the ability to keep things on a very lovely, calm level, no matter what's happening. Do you know what I mean? I think that's really, really important. I mean, we all know, and I guarantee every single one of us has had the like some situation where you just think, wow, you know what I mean? I think it's that ability just to be able to just flatline there and keep everything calm in the car. It's got to be. You know what I mean? Like, some of my clients have gone, I don't know what happened. How did you stay calm there? Well, if I didn't stay calm and you was not staying calm, what sort of atmosphere would be in this car? Right? Would we have got out of this situation? Do you know what I mean? It could be anything, couldn't it? But the one thing I've never been known for is my patience. And I'm still gabbing. Penny's thinking, you're still gabbing. My patience. I've never been a very patient person, but in this job, it's like completely different. I think it's just because I know I've got to be. Do you know what I mean? I think, I just flatline all the way. Like, I don't let their emotions come in. Sometimes we absolutely shit ourselves, don't we, for God's sake? You know what I mean? Some of it's terrifying, isn't it?
It's because it's in your job description, Carl. That's what it is.
But is it though? Because I'm sure we've all acquired pupils from elsewhere with the stories of I've been shouted at, they kept telling me I was doing it wrong, I used to leave the lesson in tears, I've given up driving for months, years, whatever it is. So it should be in the job description, but there are people that aren't. We should take what people say with a pinch of salt, but I tend to believe most of them that have got in my car because they've gone on to be some good drivers.
Mm.
And I can't see why they'd make up the stories about the instructor that they had for 4 lessons.
And when you get the same story from different people that don't know each other about the same instructor,
Yeah.
So
and I think that maybe some old school driving instructors who've been around for a very long time have probably come from a different sort of breed of the newer ones. Like I know mine. He didn't. He was very strict, and he used to sit there smoking with one foot on the dashboard, and didn't stop me getting through it. I probably did it quicker because I needed to get rid of him, but it worked. Very different world in 1984, though, wasn't
it? Indeed, yeah.
I wasn't around then, so I won't know. But we're going to move swiftly on.
All right, Josh.
So, we've had the patience and calmness. What else? I think Penny and Andy was both about to say something then. So I'll let you two fight it out amongst yourselves, and we'll hear what you guys have got to say.
First. You can go first, Penny. Ladies before gentlemen.
I was just going to say observations, not just watching the learner, but other observations and understanding what we see. And I think a lot of people don't understand what we actually see. So they're not. So if you come out to a junction, for example, how many people do you see look right when they're turning left? They look right and then go. How much are they missing by not checking more than once?
This is why I don't like that look right, look left, look right again. I don't like it. Make an effective observation.
It's that understanding of the reason that we look right, look left, look right again. So who can tell me what the reason is?
Why we look right and left?
Right, left, right.
Where you're going to get hit from first.
Yeah, where are you going to get, where the danger's from.
Yep.
It's what our brain sees as well, isn't it? Because...
Is it saccadic? Is it called
saccadic
masking? Yeah.
And this is interesting. Learning about
that point that you made there. Sorry, Josh. I was just going to comment on something Penny said there about and the comment that you made on top of it, which is effective observations. I'm not a fan of look here, look there, look here, look there, because that becomes a little bit robotic for me. Effective observations is got to be the one for me. It's like pulling away from the side of the road, isn't it? The old 6-point check bloody thing. It's like, no, just show me how you're going to make this safe, and you're definitely not going to kill somebody when you do it. Yeah, show me how you're going to do that, and that usually does the trick. But this looking like, I mean, I heard Fiona mention this about how when we look from the right to the left, we don't realise it, but we close our eyes on the way our head's moving.
We don't close our eyes.
Well, I've
Our
been
brain
watching this.
switches off.
That's what, yeah. So we're not, because it stops us getting the dizziness from that sudden head movement.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that for me is worth sort of taking into consideration when it comes to things like that. And I think what you mentioned before was, what do we see?
Yeah.
What do we really see?
Yeah.
And as an instructor, I think that grows into not just what we're seeing, it's what we're predicting. What's coming next? And we become a bit Nostradamus over it, don't we? You're usually right. You can sort of work out what somebody's going to do. Not just our car, but other vehicles.
That goes into anticipation, though, doesn't it? That's more of
it.
So what I'm getting at is what we actually see, because we don't see everything we think we see.
Right.
We've got blind spots in our eyes, and our brain makes up part of the picture. Which is why so many cyclists and motorcyclists get hit at junctions, because people look to the right, think it's safe, and go. But there's a cyclist in their blind spot in their eyes. Brain makes up the rest of the picture. So we have no idea. We think we see everything, but because the brain's missing that thing, if we don't look again, we're going to end up in a collision at some point. As we look back, the brain sees the pictures change slightly and tells us something's there. So if the picture hasn't changed, it hasn't picked anything up, we're safe to move.
Well, I mean, I think there's evidence of that in just anything that we do. You could be looking for something frantically and it might be right in front of you.
Exactly.
And it's like,
the
gorilla. And they're there, bloody hell.
The gorilla playing the basketball, right? The Hermes video, in it? Is it Hermes?
Yeah, the Hermes project. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Just goes to show, doesn't it? How fickle we really are when it comes to things like that. We think we've got everything and everything's crystal clear, but it's not, is it?
No.
And now we're trying to teach people to drive a large 1.5 ton block of steel up to speeds of 70 miles an hour. It's quite a big thing, really.
I was one of the first on scene to a cyclist that was knocked off last week on a roundabout, and sun was low, floor was wet, so obviously reflecting, blinding the driver, but he was knocked off at some speed. I think he was all right. I stayed with him till he got in the ambulance, but that I expect would have been, I guess, like what Penny was mentioning, they've looked right for a car and they've not seen any cars. Then they've gone onto the roundabout and there's the cyclist. Whether it could have been the weather conditions, it could have been anything, but it's our job to make the learners aware of those risks. And I'd been talking about it on the lesson 15 minutes earlier. She turned around a corner and she was like, I can't see the road. I'm like, well, what are you going to do? I'm going to have to slow down. I was like, yeah, make sure no one's going to go into the back of us, but let's go at a speed where we can see it's safe and we can stop in that distance. And then we come to the end of the road and there was a load of cars stopped at the roundabout and someone in the road. So I stopped the lesson and went over because I'm first aid trained. But that links back to that looking. I don't know what happened. I'm not going to assume I know what happened, but someone was knocked off a bike that shouldn't have been on a roundabout. Observations, not effective.
I think you should just now be a paramedic, Josh, because you had a motorbike the other week.
I've been inquiring about more first aid training.
I think you need
that's 2 in 3 weeks. Yeah. So observations, looking, knowing why and where we're looking. And that's why, and I'd not understood what you said, Penny, about why we look that second time, because your brain is acknowledging that it's a different picture. Because I'd understood that look right, look left, look right again as a robotic movement, right, rather than a proven kind of, this is what your brain's doing. I knew about the masking, so that's an interesting one, and one that I need to pay more attention to with my learners, because I've always just said effective observations. And discussed that and the risks and things like that. But what are effective observations? We throw that out, make sure they're effective. What's that?
Exactly.
I think that you're right. You're both right. Effective observations is the thing. But if you're asking somebody to be effective with their observations, then it's important that we look at what they see that as. If they're only looking right and left once and then going, is that really effective? But for me to sell them to look right, look left, look right again, and then look forward and then left, that to me is too robotic. And are they really taking in what they're seeing, or just moving the head because I've told them to? But if I say use effective observations, and then maybe they don't do the looking twice, then we can have that discussion about, was it really effective? Are you sure? Can you explain to me what you think was effective about what you did there? And could there be another way? That's a way to get them to see it from that point of view, is the reasons why they're doing it and not just doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Not doing it on road, doing it
if you
because
don't
there's a
think it's
reason.
enough, if you don't think it's enough, then you can have that conversation to sort of guide that out of them. But tell them to look left, right, all that, just too much. It's for me, it's just like, you're not really doing it for a reason. You're doing it because I've told you to. And I think that's old school, isn't it? Just do that because I've told you to. You know what I mean? Let me finish my cigarette.
Well, it comes back to us as the trainer, ADI, PDI, whatever we are, to understand that why, instead of just repeating what a trainer's told us. If my trainer had said, yep, every time they come up to a junction, they need to look right, they need to look left, they need to look right again. Like, yeah, okay. And then I pass that on to my learners. Look right, look left, look right again. Okay, this is what you need to do to pass your driving test. Make sure you do it on test day. They pass the driving test. They're driving the car the next day. There's no one sat next to them anymore. They don't need to do it because they don't understand why they were doing it in the first place.
Exactly. So that understanding, so we need to not only know what we need to do, we need to understand why we're doing things. We can pass that knowledge on to the learners so they understand why they do things, and then they'll keep doing them continually once they pass their test, rather than stopping, finding their own way.
And where does all this link back to? Part 2?
Yeah, part 2 and part 1.
Part 1. Yeah, part 1, it's a bit of an eye-opener, isn't it? I think we probably, unless you do it regularly, is always refer back to that ourselves, just for our own development. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to forget about it all and just get on with the job. You know what I mean? And could we all pass a part 1 right now? Sometimes I just think
Andy's nodding, going, yeah.
Andy definitely could.
I hope I would, with some of the other projects I'm working on at the minute.
Exactly. I think that I think if we move away, like I mentioned before, I think coming away from the structure of it will help us to develop better as instructors. There's some wonderful books out there, but it is, I think, when people rely on that, and we've got a bit of an issue. We're coming at it from somebody else's angle there, and not our own, and certainly not our learners' angles, because those books weren't written around our individual clients. Everyone's different. Everyone's, it's completely different.
It's true. I'm going to bring it back to Andy now before we end up pursuing this. Well, you had a skill. We let Penny go first, so I'm going to give you your moment to talk now, Andy, and then you're back on mute.
Yeah, I think one of the skills that I see when I've spoke to people is they don't understand their own car, and they're telling people to put the car into a gear that they wouldn't use to go into a situation, because they don't understand what sort of speeds they can get out of each gear, low speeds and high speeds. So, for instance, one PDI said to his learner, "What do we need to do to buy some time?" we need to go slower. So this PDI is telling the person to enter roundabout in first gear and slow it down and keep speed down in first gear. You won't go into roundabout in first gear. You'd go in second and just let it roll on, like my car in particular. I know my car will go at 9 miles an hour in second gear. And as you get better and better, you'll go quicker and quicker. But to go in first gear is definitely wrong gear. And they don't understand their own car. And it's an issue, in my opinion.
I think there's a few angles that we can look at that from, though.
Yeah.
Because with a learner, I get them going slower than they need to. And I might get them rolling onto a roundabout in gear 1, but they understand the context of why. We're here to practice, we're here to learn, we're here to build that skill. It's not taught as this is how you do a roundabout. It's, well, why don't we try this, get comfortable with it, and then we'll try it in gear 2, we'll try it in gear 3. Do you know what? We might even try it in gear 4, see how the car feels. But I've also noticed when I've been out with some people, they're slowing the learner down so they, as the instructor, have got enough time to deal with the situation. But that's misleading for the learner, because the learner's done it fine, but the instructor's been getting them to slow down so they know what's going on. So I think this comes back to the skills of driving and being able to be one step ahead, so you can allow the learner to drive at a driver's pace if they're at that level. So there's probably a few things that go into that, but understanding your car and different cars and teaching a learner to drive any car and not just that one car, explaining the difference between the gears and understanding what it feels like.
That links to what you were talking about on the last episode, which was, like learning, the skills, teaching skills and that subjects. Because I think that, when you're teaching skills, for me, it was about, initially the car control, which is, what does the car feel like? What do you think it needs? Do you know what I mean? It's like listening to the messages from the car, the rumble, the everything that the car does when it's not quite controlled way. Do you know what I mean? Like the rumble you get from the, the too higher gear and you're too roll, and all that sort of stuff. The screaming of the engine when you're in too lower gear. All those things that I get them to experiment with in quieter areas first. But what do you think the car needs right now? At this speed, what are you going to do with that gear? What are you going to do with that clutch? And it's all those little elements that are thrown in for them to just connect with the car. I teach my clients that the car is just an extension of you. Yeah. And that's, once they've connected with it, it seems to work for me. That, whatever gear you're going to choose, you're going to justify it and get the car to behave in the way that you want it to behave. That's surely about experimentation. So the subject of entering roundabouts and stuff like that, the generic approach to a roundabout, I would say, and I always say to my clients, look, you want to make it easy for yourself and you need time to think, just approach it in second gear. And if you need to change your mind and go into first because of what's happening around you, then do that. But that second gear, is going to help you to a nice speed coming into that junction. That's going to help you to decide on the way. It's going to give you the time. It's going to open up some time for you. And then change it if you need to. So, generally speaking, I wouldn't teach an approach to a roundabout in first gear. I probably wouldn't do that unless they needed to. Do you know what I mean? I think second gear for me gives that. I think every car's different though, aren't they? You know what I mean? I've just got a 1 litre engine, so it behaves very well in second gear. It's just I can get quite low with that speed in second gear. Probably around about 6-7 miles an hour.
So there's some interesting points there, and obviously we've got the learner driver skills, but I was kind of listening to you, Carl, but kind of in my own head then. And something that I was thinking about, and I don't know how we term this as a skill, but when we're helping our learners learn to drive, we let them experiment and understand the car. But what we need to do now, taking a step back when we're teaching a PDI or a PDI's on their own development in the car, they need to learn and understand that person then, don't they? So I guess what a lot of it's got to come back to, one of those skills is, how do you understand that learner? And it was mentioned earlier, getting in the head. The same way a learner needs to understand the car and make the car almost that extension of them, as a PDI or an ADI, we need to really understand that pupil so we can get the best out of them the same way they're trying to get the best out of the car. What skill would that be?
That's
I wonder, like coaching or like your teaching ability. I don't know.
so I think it's down to that. It comes back to understanding, the skill of understanding. But in that case, it's the understanding of the learner. How are you going to get to know that learner as quickly as possible? So when I first meet a learner, when I pick them up and I drive them to their training area, the whole conversation is about them. What do they do? That school, college, whatever. Why are they learning to drive? What's their hobbies? What do they like to do? What do they dislike? What helps them learn certain things? So if they're a hockey player, say, what's helped them learn that? How did they learn it? Do they like theoretical side? Do they like to just get in and have a go? So there you're already starting to build that knowledge on that person before they've even got into the driver's seat.
That's it. It's part of the, like what they call, the GD matrix. How have they got to where they are today? What's the beliefs? What's their attitude? What's the motivation behind what they're about to do? I don't know if any of you have ever took somebody home on the first lesson because the motivation just isn't there. I've done it a couple of people. I've got in the car. What's your motivation? Oh, mum and dad want me to. Okay, I'm taking you home. And the relief on the face. They're dreading the conversation with mum and dad, but mum and dad are the ones that want them to do it. I'm not teaching them to drive. No, they're not interested. It's about the mum and dad. You want mum and dad, get mum and dad in the car. So they're like, "What? Are you taking me home?" Yep. You don't want to learn to drive, do you? Not really. No. I'm taking you home. Oh, great.
I can't say I've ever done that. I see it then as my challenge to get them on board, and try and find a common ground, like how driving will make life easier for them, or whatever it might be, or even just small goals so that you've got a bit of a challenge. But I think it comes back to the person again, and really trying to understand them. And it's a people job. It's not a driving job. We need high-level driving skills, but it's not a driver's job. It is definitely about people. If you don't like people, don't bother doing this job. You can love driving and hate people. This is not the thing for you. Go find some lorries.
I was actually thinking about the skill of just being a nice person. If you're an arsehole, don't be a driving instructor. Attitude, arsehole. Who wants to get in a car with an arsehole? No one.
Exactly. It's going back to that skill of being, it's building up trust, isn't it? You're not going to get anywhere with anybody unless you've got trust between you two, the both of you. It's got to be like a team effort. The minute you throw hierarchy into that situation, it's game over. So for me, it's that skill of just building up that trust and letting them know that mistakes don't really exist. Learning does. When you're learning something, you're not making a mistake. A mistake is something that you know not to do. You know how not to do it, but you still do it anyway. But
nurturing people, isn't it? It's like building them up from and watching them grow into, this whatever they are. I mean, I have a lot of nervous. We all probably do have a lot of nervous people. So just to watch them and then to say, 20 hours in, think back to lesson 1, 2, 3. Where are you right now? See how far you've come. Who's done that? and they go, me, I've done it, you know, and it's just building them and watching that. You've got to enjoy watching the growth in someone. You've got to be, I think you've just got to be, I think really fundamentally, it's really just being a caring, nice, want to watch a person grow, really.
And help them to celebrate that. And help them celebrate even the smallest of wins. You know what I mean? Because, you know, like you said, now and again we have to remind them how far they have come, because there's frustrating moments for all those people along that journey, no matter how good they are.
I'm getting cheerleader pom-poms. I'm always going, whoop, 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 whoop.
You know what I mean? No matter how quick.
I said, I've got to stop doing this.
I never thought of that. I'm going to get myself some pom-poms.
Definitely think you can build up that rapport with people.
I might even take some cheesy pinwheels with me for, like, you know.
So before we go on too much of a tangent with that,
you do that next left turn perfectly, and you get a cheesy pinwheel and a pom-pom.
I'm taking that challenge personally. Before we get back to the episode, here is your discount code from our sponsors, Knowledgeably Instructor Training. Just use the discount code MSP10 for 10% off their client-centered learning Part 3 and Standards Check in-person award-winning workshop. That is MSP10 for 10% off. I'm going to bring you back in, Jen. You was just saying something then. What was it?
If you build up that rapport with people and you sort of earn that trust, they're more likely to ask questions as well and be more engaging with you. And I find that's well worked, and it brings people further along, because when they're quite shy and not wanting to ask questions and you've not got that rapport, they don't seem to learn as quickly or have as much
confidence. Think about it, it's probably the only time in their life where it's just a one-on-one thing. Do you know what I mean? So that nervousness of not wanting to be the, you know, your classroom full of 20 to 30 children, it's very easy to go, I don't know, and the teacher goes to the next person. Yeah. So, you know, this is an environment where it's just you and them, and you can just let them know very clearly that there's no judgment in that car.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. You might think it'll sound stupid, but I'll almost guarantee you'll probably answer that question correctly. You know, that's going to help you. And that when you just open that conversation up, I don't think over the last 6 months I've ever been unsuccessful with that questioning thing. It's just based on what they've just said. That conversation goes further, and they start to realise that it doesn't matter how stupid it sounds in the head.
Yeah.
Because usually that thing that sounds stupid in the head is actually the right answer to that issue with them, isn't it? You know what I mean? I think that's great. It's watching them go, thank fuck nobody's judging me right now. Do you know what I mean?
Once you build up that rapport and they do that and they're comfortable enough to do that, then they develop so much better and quicker.
Exactly. And frustration as well. I think it's being able to say to them, look, whatever emotion you've got right now, don't hold it in. Be yourself. There's no judgment here. If you want to shout and scream and swear and bang your head against the window just for 5 minutes, I'm going to let you do that. You know what I mean? It's just be yourself in this car. There's no judgment. You know what I mean? You're on a learning journey, and sometimes it's going to be frustrating. Sometimes it's going to be like super exciting.
Yeah.
But you've just got to let it all flow naturally. Don't hold back. Just be you and just learn. I'm just there to keep you safe while you do that. I think once you get that point across fully, they'll just flourish.
Yeah.
I think you should stop holding back, Carl, and just say what you're thinking. just be yourself, mate. But what I'm going to do, because we have got a mix of people here, I'm going to try and bring it back on topic, although we're pretty much there anyway. But what I'd like to do on that questions, we've got some PDIs, ADIs and trainers. So I'm going to throw it to the PDIs now for however long. Either you guys can share some skills that you've been working on, or ask some questions of things that you're struggling with, and let's see if we can use the experience on the session to figure out how that can be developed. So to the PDIs amongst us, skills that you're working on or challenges that you're having, what have we got?
Yeah, so for me, I guess a skill that I need to work on, and I'm trying my hardest to work on, is to listen and let people speak. And
Watch Carl.
yeah, and let them speak more. And not be too quick, I guess, to assume they've said enough. Maybe dig deeper and let them say more.
So before I throw that out to everyone, what things can you practice, or things that might help you do that?
I need to embrace the silence. I find it so hard. I don't know how I've just sat here so long in silence. I think that's the longest I've ever been in silence ever in my life.
I'm just laughing at Carl. Sorry, that's why everyone's sat in silence.
I was deliberately biting my tongue, trying my hardest not to say anything, just to test myself. And I need to do something very similar with my learners. With my learners, I might ask a question and I'd get an answer. And then after that answer, I'll fire off almost like a security explanation. Just instead of letting them dig deeper to get a deeper understanding of what it is they're actually trying to say. So it might be a case of, how do you feel about that last roundabout? Oh, I think my approach speed was a bit quick. Oh, okay. So what speed do you think you should be going up that roundabout? Oh, I don't know, about 20 miles an hour. And then I would blabber on myself going, oh, I don't know. I think 20 miles an hour might be a bit too quick. You probably need to slow down, get down to about 15 miles an hour, probably third gear. And I won't let them figure out what it is they need to be doing. I'd be too quick to give them what I feel is the right information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go on.
No, just saying I've been struggling with the same thing, but I have been making more of a conscious effort to shut up, basically, and just let them.
I need to, I learned to embrace my boldness about 3 years ago. I need to learn to embrace the silence in the car and let the student figure things out for themselves a bit more.
What
It's not easy, though, is it?
Who's that? I'll ask it. So what could you do outside of lessons to help you with it?
I mean, I tried it. Like I said earlier, it was really hard for me not to talk this whole time. So I'm trying to just listen to people, as opposed, like I was saying to Josh the other day, I've got quite a big group of friends. We all meet up quite regularly. If I don't talk, people sit in silence. And I find the silence quite awkward. So it's almost as if people are so used to me waffling on that they just don't say anything because they know I'm going to create a conversation amongst everyone anyway. So maybe I just need, even when I'm out with the lads down the driving range or whatever, playing around a golf, I need to just wait until they talk and just listen. In which case, I might end up playing a whole round of golf without even talking to my playing partners. And they'll probably be thinking, what on earth is wrong with Sean today?
Yeah.
Practice. Ask the missus what she wants for Christmas, then walk out of the house before she answers you.
Yeah. Did that answer your question adequately, Penny?
Yes, but it's down to you actually trying it.
Yeah.
The same as people at home.
I absolutely feel your pain, Sean, because I was exactly the same. But I think I mean, you know, Josh is grinning me away there because he knows how much I've, you know, it's like I've got this belief in my head. I've got this belief in my head that if I stop talking, the world will end. You know.
Yeah, I'm the same.
It's a good job it ended tonight, isn't it?
I'm like literally when I'm out with the lads, I'm thinking, right, if I don't talk, are they gonna like not be friends anymore? And is the friend group just gonna shrink up because people are not talking because I didn't talk to people and create a conversation?
It's one way to find out, isn't there?
Yeah.
You've been chatty, because I'm quite chatty, obviously.
Yeah.
And I get in the car, and I'm getting better. And I say to my pupils, I'm going to shut up. We'll have the little bit of radio on. I'm going to shut up. And then they go to me, I don't like it. What's up? I don't like you not talking to me. I said, well, what do you want me to talk about? I'm just trying to let you concentrate. You've just got to get on with it. And they're like, yeah, but I don't like it. I like you talking to me. So I'll just talk some random shit to you then. Just crack on with what you got to do. Because I'm trying to get them, especially like when they're coming up for that driving test, it's going to feel a bit awkward for them in the car with the instructor, with the examiner. And I say to them, like, that examiner's not going to necessarily talk to you. If you talk to them, then they'll talk to you. But they're not. They try not to talk as well, don't they? They'll give instructions or whatever, but they're not there to put the learner off, are they? They don't want to be. They don't want to be accused of putting them off. If the pupil's not used to having someone chatting away to them, then the examiner's going to be. It's going to feel awkward. You're getting in the car with a stranger now. You know, that's the first time they've been in a car with somebody other than me, right? Apart from maybe their parents if they've got their own car. But it's going to feel a bit awkward. So we should be sitting there as trying to be as quiet as we can, or saying like, filter me out. You're on your own. You're gonna pretend that you've passed your driving test. This was like, there's a divide in here, and now like I'm not in the car. Or I might put a high vis on and pretend that I'm Melvin as well. I do that.
It's a good point, though. It's a good point what you're saying, because you know it might feel a bit uncomfortable at first, because obviously, you know, if your clients are all used to you jibber jabbing away like they were with me, eventually when I started to filter that out, they were like, I said, I've actually asked the question, does it feel strange me not talking? And they were, well, yeah.
I think it would, Carl.
We have no idea what that would be like.
But after a while, they just get used to it, and as long as they understand that while you're being quiet, they're probably doing really well. You know what I mean? As they understand that while you're the quiet moments are where everything is just hunky dory and you're letting them get on with it, and everything's safe and calm. Do you know what I mean? And I think what you mentioned there, but I do that quite a lot. You know, so I just say, you know, just pretend I'm not here. Just go and drive. You're on your way to your mates or something like that. You know what I mean? You're just driving. And they just fall into it eventually. You know what I mean? The silences, there's a lot to be said there's a lot to be said about silence.
And then we open our mouth and start talking about it. It's like, oh, yeah, I was meant to not be talking. I really literally need a zip.
You two are doing well at talking about silence.
I can tell with Mel, you know what I mean? Mel, straight when I listened to the episode the other week, I was like, Mel's like me.
Yeah, we're a bit.
Gob on legs.
Don't do an episode between me and Carl together. I think that'd be.
I'm just going to let you have your own episode.
I think
what I would like to do before I hand this kind of, because Jen, you mentioned you've been struggling with it as well, with staying quiet. Something that I've been talking about and trying to understand a lot more is area selection. I think we can feel the need to talk and micromanage the pupil when we're in an area that either we're not familiar with or they're out of their depth with. When you get the area correct, you can set the structure of the lesson before the car's even moving, and then you can let the learner do it with either nothing from you because it's a controlled environment, or predetermined prompts before you set off. Okay, so you want to work on, I don't know, approach speed to the junctions, whatever. work together to find out what the prompt's going to be. Okay, so when you need to start braking, I'll just say brake now, and then I'll talk you through the braking, whatever, and let them focus on what they're focusing on. Because if they're out of an area that's either you're not familiar with, you don't know what's around this left bend or what's likely around this left bend, or you go into a busy roundabout and they're not equipped to deal with it, you need to be one step ahead, but then there's other things going on. We're not 100% familiar with that area, so you're going to almost drive the car from the passenger seat. So I think area selection and setting up the structure of the lesson before you even set off is massive. A lot of people say the car's your classroom. I don't believe it is. I believe the road's your classroom, and you need to put them in the most effective area for whatever they're working on. And I find that helps, because we're talking about silence from a test-ready pupil point of view, but you can have silence on lesson 3 for 5 minutes while they practice left turns.
Silence on lesson 1.
Yeah, clutch control. Well, they're hearing it. Yeah.
I sort of agree. I tend to see the road as the school and the area as the classroom, and then they've got to work within their classroom to go to the next level, to the next class up. But I'm the opposite to all the others. I'm actually naturally a very quiet person. So sitting and listening and letting them do things, it's really easy. I don't have a problem with it. It takes me a lot more to actually speak and talk to people than it does just sitting back and listening and letting everyone else talk.
You need to do Zoom classes then, Penny, because there's a few of us here that probably need that. A bit of learning. Yeah. I get it. I do understand it. I like that though. The classroom's the road and not the car. I do like that. I just wanted to revert back to something that Sean said and Jan earlier on, was, struggling about also, speed control coming up to, speed on approach in fairness, which was, and I heard numbers mentioned like, 50 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour.
They were just random numbers.
Yeah, it worked for me when I moved away from numbers.
Yeah.
It worked better what does it feel like? What feels safe?
Yeah, so I tend to use, like, if it's a closed junction, then we're going to be at a snail's pace. If we're turning left or right into a new road, you're probably going to feel like you can jog round that corner. Roundabout.
Yeah, I get that. I do understand what you're saying, but I think for me, it can be different perceptions of what is snail's pace. What is that mean? We've got to be more specific. I think being really specific from their point of view. Yeah. If we're just going along with words and numbers, then sometimes that can mean something entirely different to that person. So I think it's, being specific. And I think when you're going into the feels of something rather than words and numbers, that seems to work better. Because I think, as young as most of our clients are, they have that ability to keep themselves alive on their feet outside the car at varying speeds and varying thought patterns. So it's about transferring that to a moving car and understanding what that safe feels like rather than a number. When they're on the feet, they don't think of numbers and words. They think of what it feels like. Yeah. You're running down the street and you have to go around the corner. What is a safe speed to approach the corner?
I ask them, what can they see? How much can you see up ahead? Well, not a lot. What are you going to do then? Slow down. Okay. Job done.
Yeah.
I think if you give them a number, they might not be looking at the roundabout or whatever. They might be looking at the speed.
That's the thing. Yeah, getting your eyes off the dashboard and into what's going on in front of you. Yeah. So that's what I mean about the feel of it. Does it feel safe? Do you feel like you can manage to enter this roundabout at that speed? Is that what does it feel like? Have you given yourself time to make a decision? That brings you away from numbers and words. So it seemed to make more sense that way.
I think sometimes when the on approach and there's a car, if there's two lanes towards the roundabout and the car's overtaking him, sometimes they'll try and match that car. Sometimes because they think, well, he's doing that at that speed, so maybe I should. And it comes into like a bit of a race scenario. Where a lot of kids, young 17, 18-year-old, they don't want that car next to them getting in front of them for whatever reason.
I think there's psychology behind that as well, though, in it. It's having that safety net. But what I was talking about with the area and the setup of the lesson in advance, all of these things, once you've got experience, can be almost preempted. And yes, other cars are going to be going quicker, but they're not having to read the road signs and the road markings and the positioning, because they do that roundabout every day, 5 days a week. They're going to work. They don't need to read and look at the instructions, essentially. But our learners do need to read and look at the instructions. And I think it's that, again, understanding why. Well, why am I needing to go slower than that car next to me? Understanding the difference in skill and ability currently, and understanding we're not expecting you to take the roundabout slowly all of the time. Let's get a few reps in where you know the signs, you know what you're looking for, you've got that skill, and then we go and practice that skill in a few different areas. Because people just want to be close to people and just want to fit in. That's one of the biggest challenges I've seen with like full license holders, is the bad habits they've picked up is self-talk, because they don't want to stand out. I've taught a few youngsters that have been driving illegally for years, and the hardest thing was moving away from just doing what everyone else is doing. So yeah, it's interesting when they get to that stage, but I think a lot of it can be managed before the wheels start moving. But that comes with experience as well. And you can't teach experience. We've got to experience it. So it is an interesting one. But I'd like to kind of come back to skills of instructors. Not so much the skills of learners. Is there anything else? Because my screen's just changed and everyone's moved position. I'm not sure who's where. But what else are people either working on or struggling with?
I think a skill that has kind of been mentioned amongst individual things, but as a whole skill, like professionalism. I need it. Sorry, my daughter's nipping my phone charger.
It's mine, actually.
You couldn't have timed that any better. We're going to talk about professionalism, but wait a minute, we'll have a chat.
Is this my charger?
Thanks, Kayla. I need an office space, and I need to lock the door. Professionalism, I think, is a core skill that a driving instructor needs. All going by like how they present themselves as a person, even going down to their own personal hygiene levels, etc. The way their mannerism, the way they talk, swearing and stuff like that.
Talking to you, Carl.
I call a spade and all.
So I think that's a very important skill for a driving instructor, because people do look at us as a professional body, a professional person, working alongside the DVLA, etc. So they directly kind of almost link us as if we're, I don't know, part of the government or something. I've had a learner actually thought that I was a part of the local politician. I can't even think. And I was like, I don't even do politics. I have no idea what you're on about. But yeah, so I think professionalism is a very important skill as a driving instructor in various areas. And I know it was touched on briefly, but it wasn't as a bigger core skill.
That's an interesting observation, real interesting one, because I have different approaches for different learners.
Yeah.
And it's being able to adapt that approach. There are some people that want a more, I guess, clear and professional approach. And there are some people that almost want you on their level, where you can have a bit of a laugh in the car.
Yeah.
It's understanding where that line is with the pupils, but absolutely being able to have that level of professionalism. And it works in your favor when you do. The amount of work I've got through having an extra 2 minutes on a phone call versus like when you get phone calls, I've got a driving test next Monday. Can I use your car? No, you can't. But let's have a conversation for a few minutes about why you've not got a car, why all the other driving instructors are turning you down, what your options are to go and do your test on Monday, or save my number and get in touch once you've cancelled it, or if the worst happens, you fail it, and I'll fit you in when I've got time. So I think that professionalism's across the board, isn't it, with how you conduct your business?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with at all with having a bit of banter and a bit of fun in the car. I actually think that boils down to professionalism as well, and being able to get on a level plane with the person that you've got in the car next to you. And that if you're able to make a nervous, anxious person feel calm, collected and relaxed, and if that means you've got to have a bit of banter with them, then that again goes into being a professional person, I think. So I agree with what you said.
No one's breaking. I like this. We've taken on what's happened with the episode. I tried keeping the silence. I was hoping someone was going to go. I'm not looking at anyone.
Did anyone notice how long I was quiet there, by the way?
I love it. There are so many different skills, and all of them are interlinked. There's no one or two standout skills. And I think if we go back to the start of the episode when I said it's not going to be a magic fix for a part 3, and we're firing from the hip with these. We've got no structure to how we've done this evening. We're just having a conversation as ADIs, PDIs, and we're likely barely scratching the surface of what's required to be a driving instructor. Because for all of these things we've mentioned, you can spend hours and hours and hours studying it and still have loads left to learn. But something I've taken from this episode is it is so varied, but the standout ones are what the training focusing on, that knowledge and driver skills, the ability to listen and understand your pupil and conduct yourself in a professional manner, whether that's relaxed or having a laugh with the pupil or being a professional driver in the car, whatever it is. But we're closing in on getting to the end of the episode. So I'd like to stick with how we've just done the last 10, 15 minutes, because for whatever the PDIs here are asking, there's going to be people that are watching this that are wanting those same questions answered. So I'd like to do the same again. Is there anything else that you guys have got before we start to add anything else into the mix?
Just going to say I've been working on watching the pupil. I feel like when I was doing my training, it was just told you watch the hands, eyes and feet. When not what you were looking for, not anything like that. So when I went out with Andy, he was like, you're not watching the pupil. So I went back and I was like, all I thought was, I've been told to do it, not when, where, how, whatever. Yeah. I was surprised at how many. So I'd gone on to watch some videos. Surprised at how many ADIs on videos don't actually look at the pupil. When they're posting it. So I was like, well, if they're not doing it, I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. So I went through it with him, and we went and just did a few laps. It got me to like looking, and now I feel like it's definitely improved. Hoping it has. Sure, he'll tell me if it's not. But yeah, no, I just feel like practice and having a better understanding of stuff's definitely helping. Finding what works for you as an individual. Sorry, I'm having a tangent there.
That's right. We're all different, aren't we? We all have different ways of working.
Yeah.
No two. As instructors, there probably won't be two that are identical, unless they're telling all the time. It's the only time they'll be identical. So you need to find your own way, your own methods that work for you. And it's just getting that advice from other people, listening to other people and how they do things and what helps them achieve what they need.
Yeah.
Which is the same as we do with learners, isn't it? Is then giving them that advice. This is how I might do it if they're really struggling. Trying to get them to work it out for themselves by trial and error. It's the same for you as PDIs. You've got to do it by trial and error. So that
I think
you
it's using
learn
your
the right
human
way.
skills as well, isn't it? Like Jen, this thing about watching your pupil. When you think about it, it's a skill that you already have when you're with your mates unrelated to the job that you do. When you're having a conversation with your mate, you don't face away from them and just listen to their voice. You're watching the little inflections in the voice, you're watching little body language movements, you're watching what they do and don't like, all down to facial expressions, body language, everything. You just do that naturally. You just take it to the car. It's the same sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're watching.
It's just putting it all into practice and knowing and sort of having that influence of what you're doing as well sometimes. I feel like I'm definitely anyway.
So I used to struggle with that, just realizing how much, and people like some of the training that I've done, people would say, it's got to be like an 80% look at the learner, 20% looking out front and whatever. I really struggled to grasp that. Something that helped me was I go out with my wife most evenings for a little drive through the New Forest and whatever, and I just awkwardly faced around and stared at her on these drives. And it really did help because it got me used to what it actually feels like to be facing that way slightly, keeping my eyes over that way. And I'd done it for 100% of the time, just because I could trust my wife to, she's quite a good driver, quite nice to look at. So I found it quite easy. So yeah, but that helps. So if that is something that anyone is struggling, and even if they're watching this video back, and I recommend that.
You want to hope your wife doesn't watch this video back after what you've just said.
Wait, she hasn't got
quite nice.
She hasn't got a good. Unfortunately, my wife hasn't got a good-looking partner to stare at, so she can't practice it. But I do get to practice it because I do have a good-looking wife.
It's changed now.
Changed a bit, Annie.
You can just see it rolling pin it up at screen, can't you? She's still inside her.
She's behind that screen at the back of him now with Alan's pin.
Another reason to lock your office door.
No, I said she's nice to look at.
He did say.
I said initially I said she's nice to look at. I have a very beautiful wife.
That's more like it.
I'll leave that bit in for you, Sean.
Thank you. But yeah, Jen, maybe if that is something you're working on, try that with someone. Even if it's a good friend, just go out for a drive and awkwardly stare at them.
Yeah, no, I am doing it and I'm feeling more comfortable doing it now, but it is something that I have been working on. So I just thought I'd put it in there because
I think it just gives you that engagement as well, obviously. If if you think about how we interact with people on everyday levels, if we're genuinely interested in what's going on, we're not sat side on to them. We're always a little bit engaged, and your body language, they pick up on that. Do you know what I mean? If you're genuinely interested and genuinely engaged in everything that's going on, they'll pick up from that just from the way that you're sat and the way that you're interacting. Do you know what I mean? I think when you sat forward looking out at the bloody windscreen, I don't think that they feel that you trust them in some way. Do you know what I mean? I think it's
going to say something about the sitting at an angle. I don't quite sit that way. I have sciatica and I'm quite concerned about my back. I've got a special back seat in my seat, and I would sit in the seat normally. Also, I've got, I don't that's very good for your body structure. That's all I'm going to say. I'll take my nurse hat off now.
I find it a little bit uncomfortable with the legs being able to get to those pedals if you need it as well. It doesn't seem quite the same as when you're driving, but
I'd be worried about getting rear-ended and your body sort of angles slightly like that, and you're going that way, aren't you? So that's all. Chiropractors, like 50 quid an hour. So
it's been a while since I've been rear-ended, but
my car's a write-off.
Just going to catch that message. Cheers, Stephen, for coming. We'll be wrapping up soon. I'm going to put a disclaimer in that if anyone's watching this and sitting sideways and gets rear-ended, we are not advising this is what you do. It is your own choice on how you sit in the car safely, legally, and comfortably. And I take no legal responsibility for what you do in your car.
Body language is a funny thing, though, because you think about it, even the subtlest change in the way that you are is noticeable. Do you know what I mean? Just subtle, very subtle. It doesn't have to be dead obvious, but it's just something. It's just a little something.
We have to wear a mask when we get in that car. You have to be. That's another skill we need, is actually actors and actresses.
There's a lot of hats to wear, isn't there?
Kind of feel like we've talked about this, Josh, haven't we? About masking, I think that's quite a skill. If you either guard yourself with that mask, or sometimes you just can't wear the mask some days.
Well, we covered that in your episode, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Deciding not to go out and work if we're not mentally in the right place. And I think that links back to as well, that professionalism. We're going out delivering minimum standard lessons. Are we delivering the best that we can? Are we doing the best that we can for the learner? And there are many hats, many approaches that we need to take. And we could be here until midnight and still not cover it all. So I am going to hand it to the room before we wrap the episode up for this evening. Are there any final points that people would like to bring up or briefly discuss to wrap up the episode?
We're all listening.
I'm trying hard not to talk. Are you asking for based on the actual subject of tonight, though, Josh, or is it anything?
Right, I don't know how to answer that to you, Carl, but I'll say anything and see where we end up.
I'd say to anybody, any PDIs on here as well, just relax a little bit more into a more natural environment in the car. Try not to be too structured, and just be very organic as much as you can with it, I suppose. I'm only saying that because I literally messed the whole thing up to begin with, based on a lack of training to begin with, to be fair. Or, there was no training, if I'm being honest. So it took quite a while for me to sort of get to grips with how it really works. And when coming away from the structure was what worked for me. I just think it works a lot better when I think going back to what I said before, when you're both learning together. You know what I mean? You've got the knowledge and understanding of what it takes, but you haven't got the knowledge and understanding of that person until you get them to open up. I think that's the key to it.
Mm.
And I think being professional ties in with that as well, because you're not going to get that rapport between you unless you can be that person for them. And everyone's individual, isn't they? So I think that's the key to it, is you're dealing with an individual each time. And each time they get in the car, they might be in a completely different mode altogether. You've got to look at their life and what affects them on a day-to-day basis, like it does us.
Yeah.
If somebody gets in my car and I can clearly see that they're not in the right state of mind to do that lesson, they ain't going out. I'll just take them back home. Come on, you're not feeling you're not in the right frame of mind. You're wasting your money. It's not really the right environment for you right now, so I'm not going to force you into having a lesson. So it's the same for us, isn't it? If we're not, like you just said, Josh, if we're not switched on enough to do a decent lesson or to conduct a decent lesson, then we just don't go and do it. You don't know where it's going to lead, do you?
There's one thing I would like to say, nothing to do with that. Another skill which we haven't mentioned yet, skill of reflection.
Mm.
We need to be able to reflect on what we do and understand how reflection works so that we can get the learners to reflect on what they are doing. Because if we reflect ourselves, we'll understand how well it helps us progress in what we do.
But the magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a fair point. It is a skill, I suppose. Because I think when you're reflecting, you've got to remember that you've got to be very honest about it. Do you know what I mean? We can all excuse ourselves for being a bit shit about whatever, but unless we really reflect and be very, very honest about our own mistakes and our own shortcomings, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that can be quite painful sometimes. But you've got to do it, because how are you expecting your clients to do it if you're not capable of doing it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I think one other thing is being able to control your temper. I've only been operating on a pink a year, and I've had so many people come to me from other driving instructors saying they was screaming and shouting at them, reduced them to tears. They ended up losing out on a lot of money because they didn't want to go and continue their lessons, and they had paid for bulk hours and blah blah blah. I can't get my head around that at all, and I kind of let it go in one ear and out the other. Don't pay me too much attention to it, but when I do hear it, I think, do you know what? When my kids are older and they're learning to drive, I probably won't be teaching them myself because I'm naturally going to have really high standards. So I'm probably going to ask someone else to do it. But if I find out that someone else is screaming and shouting at my child when I don't scream and shout at my child myself, I'm going to feel offended by that. And, if my children are upset, I think no one should ever be screaming and shouting at someone else's child.
So I don't think anybody should be screamed and shouted at in a learning environment anyway.
Yeah,
exactly, that's the 70s. Growing up in the 70s, going to secondary school, where all the teachers screamed and shouted at you. You know what I mean? They didn't learn nothing. I came away from that school with bugger all because they were just a cartload of idiots.
So throwing chalkboard rubbers at you as well.
Fault, that sort of thing. It's not that environment. People are not going to learn. It's full stop. They're just not going to learn.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think if people find it that stressful that they've got to scream and shout at a 17-year-old child, then I think they need to have a little think about whether the work is for them. Mm-hmm. And maybe they should start and look at a different career path.
Why would you want that anyway? For me, I pride myself on the fact that when I go to pick a client up, they're at that door waiting. They cannot wait to get in that car. That is the feeling that you want to get from a client. Because they can't wait for you to turn up. Because they can't wait to go and learn. They can't wait to take it one step further. You know, I hate the fact if somebody thought, oh God, I'll be driving lessons today. That'd just make me so sad.
Yeah.
That'd make me not want to do it. You know what I mean? There's no way.
I'd be gutted if I had one of my learners' parents message me. It would upset me quite a lot if I had a learner parent message me saying my child has come away from this lesson extremely upset.
Yeah.
Because of something I've said or done. It would almost, I'd be gutted. I'd be devastated.
Now, I've had the same conversation this morning with one of my pupils because he's quite nervous. He's a test standard. He's going to test next week, and I says, "Well, what makes you nervous?" And he says, "Other people on the road have got conversations." And he come from another instructor, and he says, "I used to hate going on my driving lessons because we went around the same area every time. But when you turn up, I'm excited to come because we go to different places all the time."
Yeah.
We don't go around the same place all the time, but obviously he's had a year in a car with somebody where they've just gone around the same estate week in, week out.
Yeah.
I think I'd just go off what I felt when I was learning at the school, but I didn't learn because it wasn't engaging, and there was no patience there. It was just a case of, shut up, you idiot, or open your gob again, you're going down to the whack, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that really probably affected me deeper than I ever thought it did.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so the learning environment for me has to be where they're hop, skipping and jumping into that car.
Yeah.
That's it.
Something we've got to bear in mind is these youngsters, especially the shy and anxious youngsters, they might have had a bit of a rough time at school. They might have been in a situation not that long ago at school where they've put their hand up, they think they've got the right answer, and the teacher's just gone wrong, and the whole class has just laughed at them. And then from then they've just gone, I don't know. And that's where all these I don't know conversations come from with some of these learners when you're trying to talk to them, and when they start saying I don't know, the chances are it's probably because they've got the answer, they know what they want to say, but they're too scared to say it because they feel it's the wrong answer. So they'd rather just say,
that's that trust thing. It's getting them to understand now things are very different in this car because none of that's going to happen. You know what I mean? It's just you and me, and anything you say is just going to be, a conversation just between me and you to work out what the best way this is going to work for you. And that's it. As long as they've got that trust, that's it.
So it boils down to the actual questions you ask as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Questions that you ask to get another skill.
Yeah. And your vibe, the vibe you give off, and it's just taking it organically. That's the way I look at it. That's just the end, be all end all of every lesson for me. Is never preempt where you think it's going to go and just let it flow. But yeah, I think most of the points made there about skills for us driving instructors, I would imagine there's many more, but then the main skills, isn't it? And the reflection, like Penny said, is really powerful, really powerful. It's probably the most powerful tool for a learner, so why would it not be for us? In the right environment, because we do get time to reflect, and we should take time to reflect and be very honest about it. If something's gone wrong and it's not been fixed, it's probably something to do with us. So I think it's easy to blame outside, isn't it, of everything. Wasn't me. Probably was.
Yeah.
Always easy to blame the other person.
Easy.
Yeah.
So easy.
So being able to accept responsibility, then that's a skill.
Mm-hmm.
Some people literally can't do that at all.
Yeah. Right, I'm knackered now. Are we done?
I knew someone had filled that silence if I stayed long enough.
Oxygen's running out.
Podcast. Say again.
Oxygen's running out.
Oh, dear.
Bedtime.
I enjoyed that, actually. I might even come to the next one.
I'm going to get you, Mel, and Sean on your own episode.
Oh, dear.
Has anyone else got any points? We've had a few more there before we do wrap it. Anyone sat waiting with something they want to say?
Said my piece.
Andy's been quite quiet tonight, anyway. He's been having a good old listen there in the background, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been using my listening skills.
He's such a great listener.
Yeah, well, I was going to book an appointment to have something to say, like, but you couldn't get a word in edgeways sometimes, could you?
Oh, dear.
Even Josh went for talk a couple of times and had to stop because he was a bit beat to it.
He should be used to it by now, shouldn't you, Josh?
Hey, if you want to see questioning, you should watch my episode with John Rogers. I managed to ask one question and not talk for 50 minutes.
I think actually, yeah. I think I watched that one. I heard that one.
This is why, and I've said it multiple times now, and the more I reflect on it, the podcast has been great for my questioning and listening skills, because I do just truly listen to what the person's saying, and then they keep going. So I have to almost listen more, then take a second, get that next question, and then off they go again. But I think podcasting is excellent, especially for people that are struggling with that silence in the car. Potentially doing a Zoom call with a few people and record it and watch it back, and how much are you talking versus the other person, even if it's a 15-minute call, because you'll see that things happen in the silence anyway. You see, I'll stay silent and someone will talk eventually, unless I mention it as a prompt like that, then everyone will stay silent. But I know you mentioned it, Sean, about if you don't talk, no one will talk. And you need to look for evidence of where that's not the case.
Yeah.
Like this evening, you didn't talk for the first 20 minutes, half an hour, however long it was. We still went through the episode. If you go out with your friends and you sit in silence, chances are a conversation will start. It might not be in the first 30 seconds. You might have to wait a little bit longer than that, but a conversation will start. You just give a little bit and then let it go. But silence is massive. I had to learn that the hard way, delivering to 30 odd people in a lecture room, because I'd fill it. And then as soon as I stopped, people started giving me answers. So on that, I'm going to bring in some silence. I'm going to thank everyone for the episode this evening and all of your time. And hopefully I see some of you guys next Monday. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Been nice to see you all.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your time.
You've been great. It's been a good laugh, actually. Yeah.
Thanks, Josh, for having us all and putting up with it all.
I don't know how you do it all, Josh, to be fair. You do really well with this. It's just like, it's incredible what you do, I think. I don't know how you put up with us all, to be fair, but, you know.
These aren't plugged in.
Lip syncing.
Cheers, guys. So thank you very much to everyone that joined me this evening for the session. Thank you to you guys for watching and listening. And thank you to our sponsors, Knowledgeably Instructor Training. You can find all of their award-winning content at www.adikit.co.uk. So make sure you check them out. Thank you.